very much. Here we have the agenda. You're all welcome to the meeting. Can we check whether any apologies have been submitted?
Chair, no formal apologies has been submitted, Chair. I'm assuming other members may have connectivity challenges, and I will keep you posted if they join. Mr. Thring just joined the meeting as well, Chair, and Mr. Berkman and Dr. Ntwane is joining as we are speaking.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome members who have just joined us. So can we have a move and a seconder for the adoption of the agenda? Today we are meeting to look at the briefing of the Export Credit Insurance Corporation. Sorry for the, we're looking at the strat plan and the annual performance plan for 2023-2024, and we'll also look at some minutes, members. So can I have a move and a seconder for the adoption of the agenda? Honorable Moatse.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I move for adoption of the agenda as presented.
Thank you very much, Honorable Moatse. Honorable Mbiani.
Thank you very much. I second the proposal for the adoption of the agenda as reflected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mbiani. That means our agenda for today has been adopted. Can we just check who is here from the department to introduce the entity?
Chair, Ms. Mtombi Matumela will do the introductions, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Ms. Matumela.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, and good morning to the honorable members. Chair, we thank the Portfolio Committee for this opportunity to present the annual performance plan of the ECIC. The ECIC will take the Portfolio Committee through the presentation. And from the ECIC side, Chair, we have the acting CEO, Mr. Ntshengedzeni Mapula. He is accompanied by Mr. Warren Kuhn, who is the manager in the office of the CEO. We also have the CFO, Ms. Noluthando Mkhathazo. The chair is supposed to join the meeting, Chairperson, but he's just caught up in a meeting, so he'll be joining the meeting as soon as he's done with that meeting. His name is Devin Damalingham. Chair, the CEO of the ECIC is unfortunately on sick leave. Hence, we have Mr. Ntshengedzeni Mapula, who will be taking the Portfolio Committee through the presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Acting CEO, Mr. Mapula, over to you to do the presentation to the committee.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to honorable members, and thanks again for the opportunity to present to you this morning. Again, just to reflect on the ECIC corporate plan. The presentation will take three forms. The first part will deal with our mandate as well as our performance over the last 10 years. Then the second segment will be on our corporate plan and the strategic objectives and how we link up that to government objectives. Then the last part will be the budget, which will be presented by the CFO.
Can I just ask, sorry, Mr. Mapula, can we just ask whoever is handling the presentation to put it in slide mode? I think here at the right-hand side at the bottom, there's a, next to the volume or the next to the sliding bar there. Okay, it's not that one. We're not there yet. There we go. Thank you so much. You may proceed, Acting CEO.
Thank you, Chair. So the ECIC mandate is to facilitate export trade and cross-border investments between South Africa and the rest of the globe. And obviously, our strategic focus is on the African continent. That's where most of our portfolio is sitting. However, we also look at other emerging markets as well. We also take into account, the opportunities that are presented by the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Our mandate has since been expanded to cover both capital and non-capital goods, with a focus on the sectors covered by the various master plans. And we've seen some of the transactions now, trickling in on that. I mean, recently we have done or supported a transaction that involved furniture and steel as well. And then we also have a pipeline that indicates that, the non-capital goods, transactions are going to be the mainstay of our business going forward. Obviously, the key thing in expanding our mandate is to boost intra-Africa trade and facilitate high levels of supported jobs and the creation of new jobs. So in terms of our vision, we have adjusted it slightly. We want to become a world-class export insurer in facilitating export trade and investment globally. And then our mission is to provide insurance solutions in support of South African goods and services by applying best practice, underwriting, and risk management principles. So these are very key because as an insurance company, we take liability. So the transactions that we need to look at, we need to scrutinize them very carefully to make sure that, we do not just attract transactions that will lead us to paying claims immediately. So the underwriting principles that we apply are quite effective in this regard. Then I will focus on the ECIC economic impacts in the last 10 years, since 2013 to 2023. The value of ECIC supported projects that we've done over the last 10 years amounted to 33.2 billion rand. And these were a combination of export credit loans, as well as investment that we supported in the various sectors, such as power, mining, rail, construction, and telecommunications. And the table there, it does indicate how we have the cumulative numbers over the last 10 years, how we built up to the 33.18 billion right there at the top. Then in terms of the value added to the SA economy, you will see there, the value of that we added into the economy was about 12.96 billion rand. And that is the benefit that accrued to the SA economy. And then when you look at the graph, you will see the yellow bars and the blue bars. Obviously, the yellow bars also indicate big spikes, and that is during the construction phase of the different projects that we've supported, because that's where most of the exports happens, loans are being drawn, and projects are being delivered. And then the blue bar represents the operational phase of the project. Once the project is implemented or delivered, obviously when it enters operational phase, it does scale down in terms of payment. Then it's taken over by the technical people that run it. And hence you see the smaller contribution there in the operational phase. Then in terms of employment impact, over the last 10 years, we have managed to facilitate and sustain 53,000 job opportunities in South Africa. And that is due to our export transactions that we've supported over the last 10 years. And again, the graph does indicate, the spikes in terms of the yellow and the blue segments. Obviously, the yellow indicating the construction or delivery phases of the project, and then the blue bars indicating the operational phase. Again, in terms of the revenue impact that we contributed, 4 billion is estimated to have been added to the South African fiscus. And again, you can track, the trajectory since 2013 up until 2023. I will hand over to Warren, Mr. Warren Kuhn, who will take us through the corporate plan.
Thank you, Chair. So when we put together our corporate plan, we focused on 4 strategic themes, being stakeholder and customer engagement, growing and diversifying the business, operational excellence, as well as good governance and risk management. This map just shows how we see our strategy in terms of how the objectives build up to stakeholder satisfaction. In terms of our targets, we've split them up as per the DTIC joint KPIs. So under industrialization and growing the economy, we have the objective of contributing to trade facilitation that results in job creation. Under this objective, we have 4 targets. The first one is value of deals underwritten being $560 million, and the number of deals underwritten being 4. Then we also have another target for value of approved transactions within the expanded sectoral coverage being $70 million. And then number of companies benefiting under the export passport program of at least 6. Under actions to promote transformation, we have an enhanced transformation objective, which we're targeting to maintain our level 1 BBBE level. Also under this, we have supporting emerging exporters under the export passport program just mentioned. And through the new line of business of short-term trade insurance, we aim to support more SME exporters, plus youth-owned, women-owned, and Black-owned exporters across the different provinces and district municipalities. In terms of building a capable state, we have an objective of improving the employee value proposition, which then results in staff retention, and we target 85% staff retention every year. Improve business processes and systems. We have a business process automation plan, a multi-year plan, and we're targeting to get to 80% of that plan in the current year. Improve staff efficiency. This is it's an employee cost versus insurance revenue ratio, and we target that ratio to be below 31% each year. Then we have an objective to embed risk management practices. This we're targeting ensure no breaches on our risk appetite limits and achievement of level 3 risk maturity levels across 50% of metrics. In the prior, we had level 2 across 100% of metrics, so we are looking to ramp that up this year. We have an objective, enhance financial sustainability. There we're targeting a 5% increase in equity and to keep our operating cost base of underwriting activities below 157 million rand for this year. Under stakeholder and customer engagement, we have an African Continental Free Trade Area media campaign, and we are tracking the click-through rate score of that campaign. We're targeting 10% on that. And then we have, every 2 years, we have an employee engagement survey. And this year we're targeting score above 70% on that. And then our enhanced corporate governance objective, we target a clean audit with no repeat findings and no more than 3 new findings on the audit committee report from the external auditors. In terms of our alignment to government priorities, in terms of the medium-term strategic framework, under the economic transformation and job creation priority, our level 1 B target and the 4 targets under contributed trade facilitation contributes to that, while the contributed trade facilitation also contributes to the Better Africa and World priority. In terms of the medium-term strategic framework, under the economic transformation and job creation priority, our level 1B target and the 4 targets under contributed trade facilitation contributes to that, while the contributed trade facilitation also contributes to the Better Africa and World priority. as I've indicated when going through our specific targets, these are how they are aligned to the joint indicators. And then with regard to the DTIC's APP for 23-24, we've looked at our business, and these are the areas where we believe we will be able to contribute to the DTIC KPIs. Under output 4, we, as an outcome of projects approved by us, there's essay content of about 50%, or the minimum is 50%. And from that 50%, there's then, out of that, there's manufacturing exports. And we've estimated for 23-24 that about $9.8 million or 163 million rand would be manufacturing exports. Then output 6, this is the combination of our two targets for 560 and the $70 million. Then output 8, this 1 million rand is anticipated from our enterprise development and supplier development program. Output 9, this is an outcome of projects approved, and we anticipate that $50 million or 250 million rand would be from the labor absorbing sectors that are detailed in the DTIC APP. Output 12, we expect 5,000 jobs to be supported by projects in the portfolio, while projects approved during the year would result in 2,163 jobs created under output 13. Then for output 25, the 10 business forums planned by the DTIC, we have committed to present or participate in at least 4. And this would be providing presenters or panel members, as well as obtaining participants and attendees to the business forums. In terms of the 1,000 case studies, the DTIC APP has us down for 30 case studies. And we've already started on these. We do have a few from our 20-year anniversary a couple of years ago. We're planning to conduct or participate in at least 10 of the 52 targeted community outreach programs, as well as participate or support in at least 3 of the 5 conferences, summits, and international forums hosted. In terms of output 40, the export passport program that I mentioned is one of the programs targeted for this measure. So that is our contribution to that one. And in terms of output 43, we participate in 2 of the incentive adjudication committees. So we will participate in this outcome through that. Then, Chair, we get to the budget. The CFO will be taking us through that.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, there has been a new accounting standard that has been issued for insurance companies, and that standard will be applicable to ECIC from the 1st of April, or was applicable from the 1st of April 2023. And as a result, this budget, Chair, has been prepared in terms of that standard. And what that standard requires, Chair, is that when we calculate the value of our insurance liabilities, we should be estimating future cash flows. So we estimate both premiums that we will be receiving throughout the life of the policy, and we will also estimate any outflows like your premiums or expenses that we would be paying over the term of the policy. So what happens is that every reporting period, then we are now, because now the standard is calculating the liability based on future cash flows, then it necessitates us to reverse any estimates that would have been made for the period that we are reporting against. So as we reverse those estimates, then we will be recognizing an insurance revenue. And then in an instance where those expected claims do materialize, then we would record those as insurance services expenses. And then in terms of our premiums, what we have assumed is that for approved projects, those will materialize at 100%. But for the projects that are still in pipeline, we applied a probability of 60%. And then the other assumptions that we have applied was that we have applied an average increase of 4% in terms of our operating expenses, and this excludes salaries. And then for the salaries, we have applied an increase of between 3.5% and 6%, mainly because this is also driven by when the headcounts are filled in. Okay, and then in terms of the income statement, Chair, you will note that in terms of the revenue line, we are expecting that the revenue will increase from 395 in the 2024 financial year, and it will go all the way to 916 in the 2028 financial year, mainly because, Chair, this is driven by the estimates that we have made and also the new projects that we are anticipating to underwrite in the various financial years. And then in terms of our insurance services expenses, you will note for the 2024 financial year, we are recording an expense of 308 million rands, and that is mainly the claims that we are projecting for the some of the projects that are in Ghana as a result of Ghana defaulting on some of its obligations. But Chair, I must note that at this point, that was the case when we were projecting, but however, subsequent events happened which now necessitated us to record those claims in the 2023 financial year. So meaning that when we report against the budget in 2024, those expenses would not materialize, mainly because we would have we already recorded them in the 2023 financial year as part of the us closing the 2023 financial year as. And then in the 2025 financial year, we were projecting claims to the value of 213, mainly because of how the dynamics in terms of our projects, where some will go into distress, but then we do have processes in place that we put in place to avoid any projects going into defaults. And then over the term, you will note that we only those expenses or claims reduces from 40 million in 2026, and it goes further down to 3 million in 2028. And then overall, Chair, in terms of our insurance revenue results, you will note that profit increases from 78 million in 2024 and all the way to 764, mainly because of those two factors that I just talked about. And then as indicated in terms of In terms of our operating expenses, where I indicated that those on average are increasing by 7%, and in terms of salaries, it ranges from 3.5 to 6%. So you will note in terms of the monetary numbers, those are increasing from 148 million in 2024 and all the way to 177 million in 2028 financial year. And then the other type of income that we generate, it comes from the investments, where we would invest all those premiums that we are getting from the projects, so that we increase our financial sustainability. And in an event where we receive claims, we do have sufficient funds to pay those claims. So under that portfolio, Chair, we are expecting to generate investment income in 2024 of 579 million, and it increases all the way to 923. This is also driven by the number of premiums that we get, and also the fund managers that we appoint, because from January 2023, we had appointed multi-class fund managers, and we are expecting higher returns from those fund managers into the future, Chair. And then the other item to note, Chair, is that we continue to receive IMU income from the DTIC, based on the scheme that was entered into with the financial institutions. And then from that scheme, Chair, we are expecting to receive grants of 173 million in the 2024 financial year, and then it increases to 205 million in the 2028 financial year. So that income, Chair, is to pay the IMU claims that we get from the financial institutions, and it is not for ECIC to utilize in terms of our operations, Chair. And then if you look at the profit before tax and ESD contributions and foreign exchange movements, then our profit increases from 577 in 2024 financial year, and then it goes up to 1.6 billion in 2028 financial year. And then in terms of the ESD contributions, these are the contributions that are regulated, and these equate 4% of our previous year's net profit, but that net profit that we use is in terms of the rand functional currency. And then in terms of that program, we are expecting to spend 39 million in the 2024 financial year, and then that increases to 55 million in the 2028 financial year. So overall, Chair, when we look at the profit after tax, we are expecting that profit to increase from 195 in the 2024 financial year to 1.4 billion in the 2028 financial year. And the reason why, Chair, the profit for the 2024 financial year is this low, it's mainly because in addition to the claims that I had referred to, with the transition from the old accounting standard to the new accounting standard, it will result in ECIC generating additional, or in terms of the new standard, because it's applied retrospectively, then it means our opening balances would have been higher, or in the previous financial years, our profit would have been higher than what we were reporting previously. So as a result, it will result in an additional tax that we will need to pay. But then SARS has allowed that tax be paid over 3 years. So hence there is that reduction in the 2024 financial year. And then when we go to the balance sheet, Chair, under our total assets, Chair, our assets are increasing from 10.3 billion to 16.5 billion. And that increase, Chair, is driven by the new projects that we underwrite and also the investment income that we generate from the investment portfolio, and also the premiums that are actually paid from the existing projects and the pipeline. And then in terms of our equity, we are expecting our equity to increase from 8.5 billion in 2024 all the way to 13 billion in 2028 financial year. And that is driven by the increases in the income, as I've discussed in the previous slide. And then lastly, Chair, in terms of our liabilities, we're expecting our liabilities to increase from 1.8 billion to 3.5 billion. And that increase, Chair, is driven by two things. Firstly, as we increase as we underwrite new premiums, then it means the liability. As we underwrite new projects, then it increases the liability associated to those premiums. And also in terms of these new standards, that insurance liability figure is calculated on a net basis. So meaning that it is the net of the expected outflows minus the expected inflows. So it means that as and when we receive premiums from these projects, our assets will increase by the premium amount that we have received. But similarly, those liabilities will also increase, because what will now be remaining under the liabilities will be the expected outflows, because now previously we would have recognize those liabilities net of the premiums. And then, yeah, that is the main, Chair. Thank you.
CEO.
Chair.
Is that the end of your presentation, CEO?
Yeah, that is the end of the presentation, Chair.
Oh, I thought you'd make concluding remarks. No, that's fine. Thank you very much. No, that's fine. Thank you very much. Members of the Portfolio Committee, there's the presentation. Can I see hands for interaction with this presentation made by ECIC? I see Honourable McPherson. I think you can proceed, Honourable McPherson. I see other hands now. Honourable Mbuyani.
Thanks so much.
But proceed.
Thanks so much. So, obviously your entire function exists around, exports of goods from South Africa. And if one, looks at the dangerous game that South Africa has decided to play with our biggest trading partners like the United States, with the European Union, in the advance of shipping weapons to Russia and, violating possible red lines for our trading partners, which very well could lead to sanctions and losing lucrative trade agreements for a country that doesn't even do the sort of trade that we do with Mozambique. How would that affect how would that affect the entity if South Africa was to either be sanctioned or to lose an important trade agreement like AGOA because of its desire to take sides in the Russia-Ukraine war and ship weapons to Russia? So, what would be the consequences for the entity and for exports in South Africa? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable McPherson. Honourable Mbuyani.
Chair, thanks very much for the opportunity. Chair, let me first welcome the presentation and also check if I heard properly when they were presenting around the education and also awareness program, the stakeholder management and engagement, and also trade facilitation. I just want to get the financial support to youth, women, people with disability, in which sector, but the people with disability is not covered. Just want to understand in which sectors is this applied, and also the community outreach program that is been indicated here. So where is it, and in which district, the rural areas, and where? The financial strategy to bolster the revenue and also the incentive program, if I can get that. And also, Chair, if I can check the relationship of the entity with the Invest SA, whether they do have some engagement in terms of those programs. The other one will be ECIC being overarching policy of government in transforming our economy. What is the percentage of Black people who are beneficiaries of the work of the entity to ensure great transformation in the sector? And also in terms of the market exposure of the entity. Maybe that one I will repeat as well. In which sector is the economy, the entity mainly involved? And how many of these SME are being assisted, and what is the intended target to empower those SME? Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Honourable Malamacha.
Thank you, Chair. I also like to follow suit. Welcome the presentation. Short and sweet, straight to the point, with some good stories to tell. To quote one, the 12.94 billion value added to the South African economy, I think it is a very good story to tell, supplemented by the 56,000 jobs facilitated. Just one will be happy to note the permanent and the temporary there. What other thing that make us to be proud was the audit findings where there are no repetitions. I think that is another very interesting sector. The other one, Comrade Chairperson, is the concern will be on the profit, on the 2024 profit that is gone so low. The question will be what measures are in place to ensure that there's an improvement to meet the expectations. However, Comrade Chair, this question needs to be answered. How is the low GDP growth that the South African has experienced since the outbreak of the pandemic? You will remember the COVID-19 pandemic impacting the entity. The other one, Chair, in terms of building a capable state, other than just retaining 85% of the staff complement, What role is the entity lying in creating additional jobs and further giving practical experience to graduate and young people in the sector? The last question, Chair, what will the entity seek to achieve through its outreach program? As Comrade Mbuyane was much more to say, it's not said much on the outreach. Now, what will the entity seek to achieve through its outreach program, and in which area this be located, bearing in mind the kind of project of provinces that we are having, the rural, semi-rural, urbanized one. I think, Chair, allow me to pause and give others a chance. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Floriana.
Thank you very much, Chair. First and foremost, Chair, we would like to take this opportunity to welcome the presentation that was given. It was well presented. Chair, I only have 3 questions for the entity. And my first question comes from their mandate and strategic focus. In their mandate and strategic focus, they spoke about the emerging markets that they are looking into outside Africa. I'm just interested to know which countries are those, maybe if they can give us an example. And then the second one is, I'm interested to know, and I don't know if maybe they can answer this, on what is a product that is highly exported in South Africa? Like if maybe they do have that information, can they please just share with us on which product in South Africa is highly exported? And then the last one, Chair, is on the issue of the electricity crisis that we're facing as South Africa. I just want to know the load shedding, how has it affected the entity in what they do? And if the load shedding issue is not resolved soon, what damages can it bring to their revenue? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. No further questions? Okay, thank you very much. Acting CEO, back to you and your team.
Thank you, Chair.
I see there's a hand from Honorable Ntwani. Can I just take her hand and then I'll hand back to you. Thank you.
My apologies, Chair. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really appreciate it. I would like to know, the entity has expressed the importance of an EXIM or Export-Import Bank, indicating that the commercial banks were unable to fill the trade financing gap within the continent, thereby requiring the need for a government support mechanism in the form of an Export-Import or EXIM Bank. So my question basically would be, what is the progress in the establishment of this bank, and what are the hindrances to its establishment? Then further, has the entity assessed how it will work in a coordinated manner with the African Export and Import Bank, or Afri-Exim Bank? How will the African Continental Free Trade Area, in addition, impact the operations of the bank? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Acting CEO, back to you and your team.
Thank you, Chair. I will start with the first question that relates to the recent media reports around South Africa exporting arms to Russia. And the question related to what will be the impact to ECIC. and also looking at the AGOA, arrangement that we have, whether are we likely to lose that or not. So from a business perspective, in terms of ECIC operations, we have not done any exports to the US. And obviously, if SA government were to lose the AGOA status, we don't think that will impact our business, because currently we haven't done any export transaction with the United States. Obviously, if the US were to impose sanctions on the usage of the US dollar, then that could impact, the corporation, because those sanctions, the SA banks will have to comply with them, and they may not necessarily want to work with us. But that depends on whether the sanctions imposed by the US includes government entities, because normally if they do that, then yes, there will be devastating effect. But generally, what we've seen, over the years with some of the sanctions jurisdictions, the US does take a long time to reach that level of sanctions. And in our view, we do not think that if there were to be any sanctions, those will relate to economic activities. I'm sure they will probably impose some measures, but whether they will be punitive on our business, I don't think so at the moment. That's just my personal view based on some of the experiences that we've seen in other jurisdictions. Then in terms of the second set of questions, those related to our impact around the education and awareness. Obviously, as a corporation, we run a number of programs under our ESD, SED program. We've got bursaries that we offer to students, universities, and colleges. Some are for master's degrees, some are for degrees in accounting or actuarial. So we've had a number of successes there, in terms of the number of students that came out of that programs. And it's something that we continue to look at. And the good thing is that when I look at the potential budget for this year, as confirmed by the CFO, I think it amounts to about 32 million rands. So that gives us a significant pool of resources to be able to deepen our impact in terms of education and awareness programs that we can support. Then the other program, which is part of the awareness, is the consumer education that we do as part of our SED initiatives. We have a private sector, entity that we utilize in terms of that regard. And obviously, one of the things that we suffered as a corporation was that, the way people were going around, offering loans in the name of ECIC. So we followed, on that, to make sure that, our brand is not damaged or maligned by these unscrupulous people. And that intervention, which was also aligned to the consumer education that we requested the service provider to do. And we reaped a lot of benefits in terms of that, because we saw the decrease in terms of those incidences. I mean, in the last quarter, I think it was only one that was reported. So I think over the last 2 years, we can see that the consumer awareness program that we are implementing through our consumer education is bearing fruit. Is that part of awareness that is very key, because during these hard economic tough conditions, people are very desperate. They can take anything that is offered to them. So I think to us that was a good measure. And again, as I've said, we've got an increased budget for this year, and we will deepen our efforts in trying to make sure that the consumer education is spread across. So the entity that we use is got a geographic coverage of the whole country. So I think one of the things that we made is a conscious decision is to really deepen our influence in the rural area so that we can see the impact of our SED activities. Even in some of the projects that we'll be looking at for this year, now that we've got the resources, obviously, it gives us an opportunity to expand our outreach. Then in terms of the sectors, that we'll look at the communities. Obviously, the question was relevant. You know, you've got urban and then you've got both rural areas as well. And I think now that we've got the resources, you know, we are going to have programs that are aimed at uplifting our rural communities. In fact, that's something that we're doing. You know, previously, you know, we had boreholes done in some of the very remote areas where there was shortage of water. In some of the schools where, you know, computer, you know, libraries also being set up there for people to be able to access those. So I think now with this budget, it gives us an opportunity to do more in terms of that. And then the other question related to what is the company's financial strategy going forward, you know, given, I think this is related to the performance of the 2024. Obviously, we are looking at various measures. You know, our mandate has been expanded. You know, we are exploring the short-term insurance, and we are seeing some significant, you know, inroad there in terms of the inquiry that we're getting and some of the projects that we're beginning to support. So obviously, you know, that line of business can give us a lot of revenue, you know, but bearing in mind it's you know, it's also high volumes, high claims. So we need to underwrite it very prudently. And then on the export side, yes, there are opportunities, you know, that we're seeing. You know, a lot of projects that are coming in the pipeline. So it's just that, you know, our project, they've got a long lead time. You know, it's not normally this transaction, they spend a period of 3 to 5 years. If you close it within 6 months, you've done very well, you know. And obviously, the pipeline is looking very healthy. We've got projects that amount to around $660 million. This is just the pipeline that we've got. So if we can get a quarter of those, obviously that boosts our financial position very, very well. And then in terms of the BBBE, I think the question was asked, you know, what is the percentage of our, you know, of the benefit that we have here? Obviously, on this one, I'll just ask for an indulgence for a minute. I just want to get some stats so that, you know, when I relay the answer, that at least we've got the right figures.
Hello.
So just to indicate some of the achievement that we've made in terms of the BEE. Overall, when you look at, I will look at the period starting from 2021 in terms of the small and medium enterprises that we've supported. I mean, you know, as a percentage of the transaction that we did, you know, we're talking about 45.63%, you know, on the small, medium, and macro enterprise that we supported. And then in terms of the township economy or enterprises, almost 0.71% of the transaction value, and that amounts to about 6.36% of the supply that we've got. And then in 2023, which is recent, obviously on the SME MEMEs, you know, we saw a big spike there, around 58.82% of the transaction value, with 65% of this, you know, of the suppliers that are coming from the MEs. And that is a big shift in terms of our procurement, you know, moving all the way from the generics to the EMEs and QSs. And obviously our target still remains that we can make a significant improvement in terms of youth businesses that we support. The only challenge that we've got, on the investment side, because that is the big chunk of our procurement. Obviously, these are fund managers, you know, and in there, we've got a dedicated program, you know, to support some of the smaller companies that are coming through, either through incubation, you know, or other arrangements that can work between the entities. And that is a stated position of the company, because we want to see women's led business. One of the fund managers got prowess. This is a fund manager who's a woman who's leading the the woman is leading that company, and we've given them all the support that they needed, even in terms of our supply development program, so that they can run their services very well. So we are making big strides in terms of the BEE. And I think, over the years, we moved, mountains. I mean, in the last 4 years, on average, we've been achieving level 1. And even this year, our projections are that we will be level 1. We're just waiting for the verification to be done by the independent service provider, just to confirm what we already know. But all indications are that, yeah, we are going to achieve that. Then there was a question also related to market exposure. What is our biggest market exposure? Obviously, one has to look at our portfolio and look at the number of projects that we've got. I mean, our exposures, the biggest exposure we've got is in the energy, construction, and some of it is sovereign projects, to a large extent. So we generally, I mean, if one looks at the historical pattern of the company, we used to be very exposed to mining sector, but over the years that has shifted. So we are doing a lot of infrastructure support project. For example, if you look at Zimbabwe, we supported a road project there, with the government, with the private entity, but that's a sovereign exposure. Then we also supported the expansion of the Zim Borders project, which is quite a very good, project. I mean, it facilitates the movement of goods between South Africa and Zimbabwe. So there's been a big shift, to look at infrastructure projects. And then we're seeing a mix. We're no longer concentrated on mining, Obviously, one of the project that has been delayed is the Mons LNG project, which could have been a significant exposure in terms of the LNG market. But that project has been delayed due to insurgency, challenges in Mozambique. However, just looking at our biggest, sectors, as end of March, we've got the power plants, energy, sitting at 43.40%. Then construction, 24.81%. Then we've got civil engineering structure sitting at 16.68%. Those are our biggest, exposures to date. Then moving to the next segment of questions, what do we expect, to improve in order to meet, the expectations? I guess this is in terms of our mandate. Obviously, we had to do a lot, to be able to meet our mandate. New products that we've developed, the expansion of the mandate by the DTSC, to include non-consumables, that has been a significant improvement, because initially we used to do capital projects, our support capital goods transactions, but now we can do consumables, and those are short-term transactions. We have put the framework in place. Obviously, we are going through the process internally to get everything in place. And we have already started doing some of the transactions. And as I said, this could be the biggest winner, for ECIC, especially looking at, most of the SA exports, largely they're still going into the SADC region. And the expanded mandate will give us that opportunity to deepen our impact, in supporting goods and services from SA. And then there was also a question around, the low growth that we're seeing. Obviously, it does worry us, because if the economy is not growing, it means we're not exporting enough, And the big challenge that we've seen to date, is the energy crisis that we're facing, which has impacted a lot of companies, and a lot of value chains. So obviously, we cannot sit and say, we've got a low growth. We do need to do something. So, and that is the reason why we're coming with all this product development, we are running our researches, to look at what are the value chains that can also be supported. And it was quite interesting that when you see some of the entities that are falling away, you are seeing some new ones coming up, and these are the companies that were supporting. For example, we just closed a small transaction with a company that refurbish locomotives, the motors, the propulsions and the motors. And when we visited their site, we were quite impressed by what we saw. And they even showed us, the expansion areas where they want to do the business on a bigger scale. They are refurbishing old locomotives and exporting them. And for me, I think, when something goes wrong, there's an opportunity for something to get right. So I think overall, I don't want to underestimate the impact of the energy challenges. Yes, that remains a big threat. The Reserve Bank has come out so many times saying that, we're going to shave quite significant percentage of growth because of the energy sector. Obviously, this needs to be addressed, very soon, or over time. Obviously, these things will take time, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that we have to sit and wait for things to normalize. We have to do something. And we are seeing a significant number of inquiries, on some of the projects that relates to green energy. Companies are adjusting to the new normal. And obviously, over time, we expect things to improve. And then what is the role that the entities play in this scenario? Obviously, like I said, we are putting new products in the market. We're also looking for new markets as well, to be able to do business. And for me, over time, these things will yield positive results. Then there was a question around what are the emerging markets that we're exploring. Yesterday I was on a call with Saudi Arabia, representatives from the Exim Bank. And what was very comforting, they gave us some good numbers in terms of the goods that they're importing from SA, which is more than $3 billion, dollars per annum, and that is quite a significant, chunk of business that we have not been involved in. And obviously, we're planning follow-up meetings, to look at what are the sectors, that we can collaborate on, that we can support, and then not just between SA and Saudi Arabia, also looking at, the continent. They've got the financial muscle. The entity provides funding even to ECAs like us. They also provide funding to banks. So that's another source of financing that can be utilized. And more than anything, we are looking at them to partner with them to advance the objectives of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. They share that, objective, and they also told us that there are countries where they've got significant interest in, which we could also look at as our markets. And then there was a question around which product is highly exported. Obviously, what we've seen, it depends on which sector you look at. Our exposure is heavily on power plants. We do not manufacture the turbines technology, but in terms of the services that are provided, so those were significant in terms of rolling out the plant, doing all the works, buildings, and only the technical part, that's not what we do. But in there, you're also seeing a lot of steel that is being exported from SA, which forms a very significant, percentage of the export that we see. Then also on locomotives, where there are refurbishment, you are seeing a lot of bogies, that come from SA, and technical services, in terms of the manpower, the people that have got the relevant skills to do that. There was also another question related to the load shedding. Obviously, as I said, load shedding will have a significant impact, and it does. It's impacting on our business. because we have witnessed some of the companies that we used to deal with, some have gone out of business because of this, some they've got increased costs, obviously, because if there's no power, they need to use, alternative means. And mostly these are generators that are run through diesel or petrol. And obviously it depends, it also depends on the extent. How long can they remain in business relying on alternative sources of power? So there are significant costs that have come through. But as I've said, we are working with many entities. Some have got, they're trying to comply with the new normal. They're putting solar panels. They're also exploring alternative sources of energy. But yes, overall, there will be a significant impact because these operations normally used to be run 24/7. So they will be impacted because if there's no power, it means they can't run 24/7. They'll have to limit their hours of operation. Then there was a question around the Exim Bank. Yes, obviously, we did look at the feasibility of ECIC becoming an Exim Bank. That was in 2016, and that process, it was advanced to a point where we already had a legislation, produced. But obviously, there were key issues that needed to be addressed, in terms of whether do we really need another entity or not, And I think a decision was taken that, the existing entities need to collaborate, to be able to finance, SA exports. So obviously we work very closely with the IDC, and then we still work very closely with the commercial banks, in this case, South African banks. And I think for me, the question of whether an Exim Bank is still required or not, that is a question, obviously, that still needs to be considered, whether in the long term, how will such an Exim Bank look like? How will it be capitalized? I think those are the issues that will need to be addressed. And obviously, given the state of our financial position as a country, it will require a huge cash injection to start an entity like that. Even if it was ECIC, it would have required a huge equity contribution from government. So I think that those constraints that needs to be considered. However, at the moment, I can say that we are not pursuing an Exim Bank. Obviously, if it gets revisited, that can be considered. Then in terms of trade financing, obviously, yes, there was an outcry that, SA relies heavily on commercial banks to provide, trade financing. And, from where I'm sitting, with trade financing, normally you find that clients have got relationship with commercial banks. They are able to manage that business very, very, very closely because these are that they deal with. They can monitor the exposures. But you are right, as ECIC, we are already entering that space. And I think the expanded mandate is giving us, that opportunity to do that. And we are collaborating with commercial banks, including the IDC. We've got a dedicated facility dedicated for the AFCTA activities, about 50 million that we've started with. And this will be reviewed on an ongoing basis, to go forward. Previously, we also had engagement with the DBSA. They were also exploring the possibility of financing, of getting involved in trade financing. And to us, this would have been a welcome development, because it does give us an opportunity to have an additional sources of fund. So obviously, you can see across the board, there's a whole lot of initiatives, that are coming up to support trade financing. And I think in our case, with the expanded mandate, it gives us that opportunity. And I can safely say that we are making good progress. The banks are coming on board to support us on that. We've seen a couple of transactions that are coming. And obviously, we need to increase the volume as time goes by so that, the initiative can have significant impact. And obviously, one of the key considerations is to look at the masses that cannot afford, credit lines through the banking channels. How do we support them? What are the programs that we need to put in place, to be able to support them? So those are the things that we're looking at and looking to address. And then in terms of Afri-Exim Bank, yes, Afri-Exim Bank is a very good player and a biggest player on the continent in terms of trade financing. And they also do a lot of sovereign lending. They also help us in some of the jurisdictions where the sovereigns are snooping in debt. They try to revive the markets, and there's a lot to be learned there. Even in our collaboration with them, we did set up 2 years ago, started program $1 billion, $1 billion program, and that was just aiming at supporting, trade financing within the continent. Yeah, and also the Moors and LNGs, they were going to take some significant exposure, about $270 odd million, on a guaranteed basis. So that collaboration is very critical in many respects. It does not only give us, the resources, it also gives us the outreach, because they've got a very good, representation on the continent. They operate in many jurisdictions. So we do not see them as a competitor, we see them as a partner on the continent. And I think that relationship with Afri-Exim Bank is very strategic and ideal in many respects. And it will help us in many respects to achieve the objective of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And then the last question was the AFCT, what is the impact on the ECIC operations? Obviously, as ECIC, we have been playing in that space. Most of our projects are on the continent. In fact, our entire portfolio is on the continent. And if you look at projects like Zimboras, they help the movement of goods, and if you look at the road project that we also did in Zimba Infralink Road, it also helps in terms of the movement of goods and people. And then again, you look at the power projects that we did in Ghana. Obviously we solved the Ghana, problem in terms of energy generation, but they're also suffering the high indebted level of debt now. But for us, the continent remains our biggest primary focus. It remains our destiny in many respects. So we will do anything possible to be able to deepen the impact of the AFCTA. Obviously, there are issues that still need to be resolved. We will work with the Secretariat in this regard. I mean, the Secretary General of the Secretariat is South African, and we've got very good relations. As a secretary, they've been hosting a number of seminars. I know in March they were here. We participated in one of their events where they were trying to mop up funds, to support some of the projects on the continent. So I think to us, staying very close, to all the players on the continent, and also, occupying a significant role in terms of supporting projects on the continent. I think that's what will spearhead, the AFCTA. And obviously, one looks at infrastructure project, rail, the ports of entries that we're looking at. There's a significant demand in terms of improving the infrastructure. So I think the opportunities are there. We just need to chase after them, and we are doing our best, to do that. And obviously, like I said, looking at our pipeline of projects, most of them, they fall within the ambit and spirit of the AFCTA. So we do not see the continental agreement as a burden, but we see it as an opportunity to do what is best for the continent. And the other question related to disabled individuals. We do have two persons. We have two ladies that were appointed, and some have been with us for years. The other one, she's an environmental specialist, very glued up in what she does. And then we also have learner programs where we've got 8 learners living with disabilities that we're supporting, you know, and we look to do more. As I've said, now we've got a bigger budget, so we can increase the numbers. And for some of these students, we also pay these learners a stipend over a 3-year period. So, which is quite a significant contribution from the ECIC. And obviously, you know, we need to do more. And that's what we're aiming. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for your presentation and for the responses. I don't see any further hands, members. You don't have follow-up questions? Thank you very much. So that concludes our interaction with ECIC. Thank you very much for your presence here today and for your report. And we wish you well in going forward with the work of your mandate. Thank you very much. Can we then go to the next agenda item? I think we don't need a body break. We can conclude our agenda.
Chair, we're considering the minutes of the 9th of May, Chair. Shall I proceed, Chair?
Please do so.
Chair, we on the 9th, we had a meeting by the BBBEE Commission on the strategic and performance plan, and we also formally considered minutes. If we go down, Chair, looking at apologies, if there was any. We had apology of Mr. Mulder and Ms. Muatse on the day, Chair. We go down. Number 1 is the normal introductory section, and then Mr. Matona proceeded to brief the committee on the Commission's strategic and annual performance plans. The issues raised by members is captured there. Then point 3, we formally considered minutes of the 14th, I think it's the 15th, 29th of March and 21st, 21st of April, 2nd May, 3rd of May. The committee had a resolution regarding the BBBEE Commission, which is captured there, Chair, and the meeting adjourned at 10:40 until Wednesday the 10th. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Members, there's the minutes of the 9th of May. Can we have a move in a second for the adoption of these minutes as a true reflection of our deliberations on the day? Honorable Mpiani.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. I propose that we adopt the minutes as the true reflection of our engagement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you, Chair. I second the proposal.
Thank you very much. Our minutes of the 9th of May are duly adopted. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Secretary. Next set of minutes.
The next set of minutes, Chair, is the minutes of the 10th, Chair. We had a meeting with the National Lotteries Commission on the 10th of May, Chair, and we considered the first draft of the budget vote report, Chair. If we go down, I think we have the apologies of Ms. Muatse and Mr. Thring on that day, Chair. Number 1 is the standard introductory Mrs. Colt and Mrs. Maharaj proceeded to brief the committee on the NLC strategic plan and APP for the 2023-24 financial year, bullet 2.21 up to bullet 2.10 cap 11 or 12 captured the issues raised by the committee. Chair, you submitted the first draft of the budget vote report. The ANC submitted the concluding remarks and recommendation for consideration. The committee secretary took the members through the concluding remarks and recommendation is captured in 3.4. the resolution that the committee members should submit the report to the respective caucuses for their input, and this formal consideration will take place on Friday, the 12th of May. And the meeting adjourned until 11:30 until Friday, the 12th of May. Thank you.
Thank you, members. There is the minute for the 10th of May. Can I see hands for the adoption of the minutes? Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you, Chair. I stand to propose that we adopt the minute as they reflect true reflection of the sitting of that day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mbiyani.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I stand to second that we adopt the minutes as reflection. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next set
Chair,
of minutes.
Chair, the 12th, I haven't distributed, but we can proceed if you choose to do so, Chair.
Yes, let's go through the minutes. Members, if you don't have an objection to that, because it hasn't been distributed to you, but we have it ready for presentation in the meeting. Proceed, Committee Secretary.
Chair, I shall share that minutes, Chair. The minutes of the 12th, Chair. We had a formal consideration of the of the budget vote report, just in short, and then we received a briefing by the CIPC on the strategic and performance plans for 23-24. We had an apology from Mr. McPherson. The introduction is the same as normal. We then formally considered the budget vote report. That was the first item on the agenda. The report was adopted with the Democratic Alliance abstaining. Then we proceeded to receive a briefing by the CIPC, and the briefing was led by Advocate Voller and Mr. Jassat. The issues 3.21 until 3.12 was issues captured by the members. I just maybe take members through that. They focus on the determination of beneficial ownership and whether it will be a voluntary or compulsory disclosure process. They focus on the role of banks in possibly strengthening the CIP's regulatory role in relation to beneficial ownership registration process. Then the need for a user-friendly guide on the CIPC website that would ensure greater compliance by entrepreneurs. Then consideration of alternative approaches that could further enhance compliance and searches on the CIP website. The points where the target set out in the APP will be achievable given the time frame and budget constraints was a concern to members. The following: the need to focus on enforcement and verification to comply with the recommendations of the Financial Action Task Force. Concerns around South Africa's being grey listed and the time frame associated with dealing with the deficiency given the size of the South African economy. The need for effective monitoring of royalties and paid to artists and musicians by collecting societies. The need to reduce red tape and the turnaround time for the registration of businesses. Collaboration with other departments to ensure greater efficiency and ease of doing business. The implementation of the IXBRL format financial reporting to the CIPC and assistance available to companies having challenges with compliance. And the last issue was raised: the need for an effective education and awareness program in rural and previously disadvantaged areas. The meeting adjourned at 10:51 until Tuesday, the 2nd of May, Chair. Thanks.
16th of May.
My apologies. The 12th, yeah, until the 16th of May today.
Yes, thank you very much, members. We
Mr.
went
Mbuyani,
through
Chair.
those deliberations because the minutes wasn't circulated. That's why we went through it. Can we have a move in a second for the adoption of the minutes as table? Honorable Mbuyani.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I propose that we adopt the minutes as a true reflection of our engagement in the previous minute. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you, Chair. I stand to second the proposal as through reflection of the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes all our agenda items for today. Any announcements, Committee Secretary?
Chair, the announcement just to inform members that the program tomorrow, we don't meet because DTIC and National Treasury and SARS need to have further discussions on the matter that would have been raised tomorrow, Chair. I think you would have informed members. And then our next meeting is next week, Chair. It is on, just give me a sec, Chair. Need to stop sharing. Just give me a second, Chair. I just want to make sure that I correctly indicate what the next item is. Chair, next week we are considering the briefing by ECIC on its strategic and annual performance plan, Chair. And we will look at the first draft of the report, third quarter financial and non-financial report, as well as maybe looking at the international study visit, the first draft thereof, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Nhloniana.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask the debate for our IPP, when is it going to be, Chair?
It's on the 24th, if I may, Chair.
Yes, proceed.
It's on the 24th. It's scheduled for the 24th of May. The debate is scheduled for the 24th of May. Chair, maybe...
Andre, what's the venue for that one?
I'm not so sure, Chair.
I think it's M46, because I see the other two.
Yeah, I'll confirm on the group, Chair. But Chair, a question that maybe we forgot to ask: if there is a debate and we scheduled to meet on the morning, so whether the committee still wish to proceed that morning, or because the debate is scheduled for the afternoon, that's a question that maybe we should raise, if through you, Chair.
I think, members, do you have any objection to us meeting the morning of our budget vote? Our budget vote starts at 3 o'clock until 5:15. Am I correct? Andre?
I think it's later. I'm not. I just maybe Margo can assist if she has the program open, the parliamentary program.
Ms. Sheldon, can you assist us? What is the time of our budget vote on the 24th?
Chair, I'm just accessing the program quickly.
Okay. So, members, while Margo is confirming that for us, do you want to have a meeting? We have a meeting scheduled with the NCC, and that is to discuss the implementation of the timeshare industry. That agenda item has been pushed back quite a few times, and also to look at the fourth quarter performance. Members?
Chair, if I give the time, if I can give the time, it's 5:15, Chair. If I can just confirm.
Yes, Chair, in the Good Up Chamber.
In the Good Up Chamber at 5:15. Okay, so members, can we hear whether you want to proceed with that deliberation in the morning? We can maybe try to like today, to make it a short one.
Chair, can you...
Honourable Mulder.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I just wanted to make sure, is that then for the 24th?
That's correct, yes. So we start at 17, 5:15, 17:15.
Thank you, Chair.
What is your opinion, Honourable Mulder? Should we then also still continue with our scheduled PC meeting the morning?
Honourable Chair, I've got a huge challenge on the 24th. I'm involved with 2 by-elections and things. So at this stage, I must still see how I can either get out of it or get someone
speaker on my behalf, so I will.
Okay.
I will get to what the committee decide.
Yeah. Okay. Honorable Floriana.
Oh.
Sorry, Honorable Malamacha.
Yeah, my hand is up, Chair. No, I wanted to say one will be happier if we don't postpone meetings, especially given the time that we are to sit at 5 and our meeting start at 9, and as we did now, we finished. Then what will be the fuss of not necessarily continue as usual? I therefore want to lobby members that let's not temper with this thing of postpone, and let's rather deal with the meeting once and for all and go and meet later and also debate later. Thank you.
Okay, and I just wanted to ask, I think Honorable Mulder is the one who requested for the timeshare report to be shared, the implementation actually to be shared. So I hope that he'd be able to somehow manage to be in the meeting. So I think members, let us proceed then with our PC meeting on the morning at 9 o'clock, looking at NCC fourth quarter performance, financial and non-financial, and then at 5:15 we'll be in our plenary physically. Thank you very much.
Chairperson, my hand is up for quite some time.
Oh, my apologies, Honorable Mbuyane.
Chair, thanks very much. I thought we are still dealing with announcement. As we're speaking, Chair, and in good hope, the cluster committee is presenting the minerals and energy. We'll request members, when we log off this one, we join the GHC, the good hope for the mineral and resources debate. Thank you very much, Chair. And I also support that we don't reschedule, we stick to our program as it presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mbuyane. I think that concludes, members, our deliberations for today. So we will see each other next Tuesday on the virtual platform. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye-bye, Chair.
Long live the Chair.